Manfred
Beautiful.
talked about analytics. And I mean, it's specifically about the defensive shift is what the conversation and article is about. And I fully agree with him on this one. He said that, what's his favorite line? It's funny. He said, it's my favorite line. Like that's what he said after he said, it's actually my favorite line. I think it's true. He said that analytics is an arm race to nowhere, especially if it's at a detriment to the game, was what he said. And he was basically, they were talking about the shift and that when the Rays were the only team doing it, it helped them out and it was just like a one-off thing. But if every team is doing the same shift and putting, okay, this lefty gets this and this, and it's worse for the product, then it's an arms race to nowhere because no one's getting the advantage anymore and it's hurting the product of the game. So that's what he was talking about. So that's why I'm so excited for the regulations and changing it. I fully agree with his statement there.
There's two different parts. There's the defensive part, which I think you're right, and that's why we have the new rules and we've supported them. The originality, the origin, as they say, of this article was one of the owners had a quote where the direct quote is, I don't know what this analytics thing is, but I have like 75 guys. What I want to do is I want to spend a week in the analytics department. I was going to figure out what the hell these guys do. And then he comes around and he says, he's like, I got a lot of smart guys down there. And that's when he runs into the arms race to nowhere line, which I think defensively, like you covered that part of it, that, yeah, we had to change the rules because it ended up being detrimental to the sport. I think to label everything as analytics is a conversation we've done a few times. But it's also, you can still tell the teams, analytics are stats and information. Like that was one of my favorite. I forget if it was Bruce Bochy or it was one of the old school managers that said, analytics, we used to just call those stats.
Yes.
And overall, analytics have been fantastic for the game of baseball. We've seen guys' careers change because of it, whether it's, even swing information or pitch information. Throw that good pitch. Ad for Blitzball coming up soon. That I just think it's funny that some of the way these sentences were phrased is that now everybody does analytics because you have to. If you don't, you're going to get left behind. But I think we could go around and name the top 4 or 5 analytically driven organizations that have given themselves an advantage by using data and info. So I think it's funny that arms race to nowhere becomes the big quote that comes out of it. And,
what owner do you think said it? They got 75 guys, so it's a big department, but the owner doesn't believe in it. So it's not
like a big club.
The Rockies analytics department is like known, and the A's are known as very small, so it's not those two. So it's some team that's got a lot of guys.
I think the owner was, when you throw your voice and it sounds like someone says something over there. I think it's one of those situations where they were throwing their voice with the 75 people. Because I think it could be one of the teams you mentioned. That's where I'll stand on that question.
Okay. So you think it's the Rockies? Trev?
The Rockies, anytime an owner does something stupid, we just go straight to the Rockies. Is that what we're doing here?
He said he's got a lot of smart guys down there.
It's interesting because essentially every team does have the same information. And I do love that quote. Bochy said that we should just call that stats. When people get so turned off and afraid of the buzzwords, even analytics and, people are scared of a term like exit velocity. But it's just a term. It's just a term for how hard you hit the ball. Like these things have been around. It's how I think that what separates people and where you can still find, victories in the margins is how you interpret the data. Everyone has it, but how do you put it to play? And we've seen different teams, use like pitch data. And like you said, Jake, find guys who do a certain thing well, and then just say, let's do it more. And I think that's kind of, for me, the biggest change for the positive when we're talking all this data, all these numbers, is on the pitching side, and being able to, interpret the data that you get from these bullpens or from TrackMan during games and say, well, shoot, if we just throw that pitch a little more, like that slug on that is, 300, like let's do that more. And then we find guys, Caleb Thielbar is another guy that comes to my mind. I played with him with the Twins. He's still doing it. And he's a guy that, he's got, like his spin access is really good. And his spin rate's there. Guys like him would have been lost in the shuffle before because he doesn't, throw, 98 miles an hour. That used to be like, hey, let's get that guy. He's got a live arm. But now it's like, oh, well, these guys spin the ball well. They do this well. The break is on this axis, and that's good for the sport right now. So let's go get these guys. I think that still plays. How you interpret the information and then put it to play on the field. Like there are certain organizations that do that much better than other organizations. And then maybe, you find you still have to have like a team identity, don't you? And if you do, say you're the Guardians, like your usage of the data is much different than, say, the Yankees or a team that has some big bopping guys, right? Like you have to see what your team is like or what you want it to be like, and then kind of curate your analytical department towards that. I'm assuming.
Does
that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, the example I was just going to jump to was look at our two teams in LA, and two guys that just did a little trading places. Noah Syndergaard, he signed with the Dodgers this year. What do all of us think? Like we believe in their information and how they're using it and how they coach that it becomes a line between analytics, coaching, and the player. That, yeah, I think if you asked all of us to place a bet if Syndergaard was going to have a good year, we'd say, yeah, I mean, he signed with the Dodgers. Meanwhile, with the Angels across town, we were all a little nervous about the Tyler Anderson signing because he signed with the Angels, a team that's got a history of however their coaching and pitching had gone up into this point of not having that type of success. That, yeah, man, I think a good ball player, we could look at a lot of the rosters and say, oh, that team's pretty good. I know a lot of those guys and they're stacked. But I think there's a next level that we know if the Dodgers call up a guy, the Rays call up a guy that, they're kind of going to be a guy for them because they know what they're looking for. And that also ties into team identity, Trev. And Yankees bullpen in recent years, if you got a sinker or slider, they can tap into that a little more. Mm-hmm. And that's become a little bit of their like team identity out there. So yeah, I think the quote ends up getting blown up a little more because it's Uncle Bobby.
Not even his quote. I mean, this whole thing is like the most miscommunicated article on purpose, I think. An owner said it. And then now people are saying Manfred said it.
Well, he echoed it and said it's his favorite quote.
Yeah, but he's talking about a panel, and then he's talking specifically about the shifts in his answer, not like pitching tools. And he's right about the shifts. Yeah. If everybody's doing it, and it's making a worse outcome of the game, like as far as excitement, then it is like, okay, let's just stop this because it's no longer just an advantage. It's just this is how the game is played now because everyone's doing it.
And baseball suffers a little bit
he's
just
the best
from
commissioner in all of baseball. So
easily
fix the game.
I think he's the only commissioner in baseball right now. Other sports that when numbers really got brought into it, specifically scoring, in the NFL, you got to score. You got to have a quarterback. And so they started to throw downfield more, take bigger shots. It's fun to watch. You love seeing guys take chances down the field. In basketball, like, I don't know, you probably find some people that don't like it, but shooting a 3-pointer is worth an extra point than, a basket down in the boards. Is that even a basketball term? I just tried to make that up right there, Jake. Is that good?
Ask your friend
Matthew. I think, shooting threes is exciting to watch, but for baseball, we're talking still the easiest way to score a run is to hit a homer. The most efficient way to score runs is to hit a homer. But with that comes, the 3 true outcomes. I think it not only the shifts kind of put our sport in a bad place, but 3 true outcomes put our sport in a bad place. It's very difficult just to watch that. We talk about the homer being one of the more boring, highlight reels. So I think both of those things are kind of what they're talking about here. And now, with the pitch clock and the disengagement rules and the bigger bases, we're seeing more stolen bases, and we're seeing some of these guys who maybe aren't prototypically or would have gotten these deals before, like some of these speedsters, that they're getting more attention, and we're going to see more rosters built around this. I think because the game, like these changes are going to change the way rosters are built, in my opinion.
Yeah, Terrence Gore got a job now. Go steal. They're gonna bring track stars. They're gonna bring track stars back to baseball, like in the '80s.
Is he on a team right now, or is he just sitting in the minor leagues waiting for September?
He was on the Yankees minor league last year. Is it the Mets minor league this year?
He's waiting.
What?
He's waiting.
He's waiting. I know he was with the Mets last year.
Terrence Gore, age guess.
33.
It's a good guess.
You can
33. I'm gonna go same.
31 years old.
Nice.
Wow. We might be getting a few more Terrence Gore seasons coming up. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.